Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Here's What I Think with your host, Charles Stabanci, where we discuss everything from current events, economics, politics, and how it all relates to business and life. And folks, the day is finally here. Today is election day, and I cannot wait to get into these topics. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Folks, the moment has finally arrived. And I cannot express my excitement. Some of you may know we have another platform called Dreamers Pro where we talk about sports. We just decided to take off the entire day. We're not talking any sports, even the NBA. There are no games today because they want players to get out there and vote and send a message to vote. So I said, okay, we're not going to work on any sports content, but today we're going to touch a little bit on the presidential election. Now, as you guys know, about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, Joe Rogan did a sit-down with former President Donald Trump. And at the time, it was big news, right? It broke the internet. We even produced some shows around, around the interview. Now, why is that? The reason was because for years, Joe Rogan seemed reluctant to interview Donald Trump. He said that he did not want to give him a platform. He didn't endorse any of the things that Donald Trump was saying, and he just seemed to be diametrically opposed to a lot of the things that Donald Trump was saying at the time. He just seemed like he would not have Donald Trump on his podcast. And then in a shocking turn of events, he decided to have him on his show. And at the time, when Trump came on his show just about 10 or 11 days ago, roughly 2 weeks ago, it absolutely broke the internet. As we're currently producing this show, that interview, I'm talking about the full interview alone, has 45 million views. 45 million views. And while we were reacting to the sit down that took place between these two gentlemen, I said at the time, I'm like, it seems as if Joe Rogan is unofficially endorsing Donald Trump just by the way that he was speaking to him and the way he was sympathizing with his plight for trying to run for office and some of the challenges that he was facing in his political and personal life. And I said to myself, this guy seems like he's leaning in the direction of endorsing Donald Trump. So for those of you who don't remember some of the things that Joe Rogan said to Donald Trump, I want to play some of it for you now, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Joe Rogan speaking to Donald Trump here.
And I think—
it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business. This is a very dangerous business, first of all. It's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, well, for a job?
Yes. I mean, other than going to war and being a firefighter or being a cop, it's the most dangerous business.
It's the most dangerous. For being president is the most dangerous.
Especially you. I mean, you haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts, and they've brushed those out of the news like it was nothing.
Yeah, they'd rather not talk about them.
Imagine if there was assassination attempts on Biden, how hard people would be attacking the right, how they would be trying to get guns taken away from people. They would try to ramp up gun laws. They would try to figure out some way to blame you. If there was attacks if Biden got shot in the ear, we would have never heard the end of it.
But I think he's in good shape because it's only consequential presidents. If you take a look at what's happened, look, I'm for having countries pay us billions and billions and trillions even dollars. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Nobody took in 10 cents, not one other president. I do things that make it, that don't necessarily make me so popular. I just do what's right. And when you do that, you're more, look at Iran. We would have never had the attack on Israel at all. Iran was broke. I told China, if you buy, you can't do business in the United States under any circumstance. We're going to go cold turkey with China. Some people think that would have been a good idea anyway. But if you buy any oil, 1 barrel of oil from them, you're not doing business. And I said that to many countries. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money. But I make myself, I understand what I'm doing. You make yourself a target. And it's a very dangerous business. But if you just look at statistically, so I saw a thing, I don't know if it's right, but 0.1% for a race car driver. It's a pretty dangerous business, right?
Yeah.
0.1% for a bull rider. I tell you, to me,
you're talking death.
These guys that ride the bulls is worse than UFC. It's worse.
Yeah.
These guys, you see these big monster bulls, and you see it in slow motion where the foot is like you know, an inch away from the head. If it hits him, the guy's gone. But they die. You know, they die.
So 0.1% die. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 0.1% die.
Right.
And they certainly get hurt badly. Really, I mean, they can't walk after a certain period of time. But with a president, if you look at
The amount of assassination attempts.
And attempts, too.
Yeah.
And attempts. No, it's a very dangerous position. I never thought of that, by the way, when I did it. You don't tend to think.
Did you just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice, they were going to love you as a president?
I figured it would be so easy. It's
well,
very
it probably
interesting.
would have been if the media didn't attack you the way they did. If they didn't conflate you with Hitler. I mean, even today, like Kamala was talking about you and Hitler. They're going to take what you said about Robert E. Lee. Oh, Donald Trump wishes the South won.
That's right. He loves Robert E. Lee.
They love to take things out of context and distort things.
So you heard Joe Rogan speaking to Donald Trump there. Well, it looks like, folks, Joe Rogan finally decided to make it official because last night, basically on election day, he decided to endorse Donald Trump. And I want to read from a BBC article here, and it has the following headline: Joe Rogan gives backing to Donald Trump in U.S. election. It continues on. Joe Rogan has given his endorsement to Donald Trump as Americans head to the polls in Tuesday's presidential election. The podcaster said he was giving the Republican his backing after being convinced in one of his interviews by tech billionaire Elon Musk, another high-profile supporter of Trump. Rogan's backing could carry significant weight with his young male listenership, which is also a demographic that Trump has been working hard to court ahead of the 2024 vote. Trump welcomed the endorsement as great news. Trump's rival Democratic nominee Kamala Harris received endorsements from numerous other top celebrities, including Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Continues on. Rogan's endorsement could reach a wide audience since he enjoys more than 18 million subscribers on YouTube and more than 14 million followers on Spotify. Trump himself appeared on the podcast last month speaking about topics from the biggest mistake of his time in the White House to whether alien life exists. Harris, too, has featured on podcasts during her campaign, but to a lesser extent. Almost 80% of Rogan's audience are men, while half are between the ages of 18 and 34, according to Edison Research. Trump's 2024 campaign is focused on podcasts popular with younger men over traditional media outlets. The race has been characterized by pundits as a story of men versus women, with Donald Trump enjoying a huge polling lead among men, while women telling pollsters they prefer Kamala Harris by a similar large margin. Katy Perry and Lady Gaga were among the stars who lent their support to Harris on the eve of the election. And at a rally in swing state Pennsylvania, TV host Oprah Winfrey issued an appeal to voters to protect women's reproductive rights. Meanwhile, explaining his endorsement for Trump, Rogan wrote that Mr. Musk makes what I think is the most compelling case for Trump you'll hear, and I agree with him every step of the way. Writing on X to introduce his interview with Musk, Rogan praised the great and powerful Mr. Musk himself. Tesla founder Mr. Musk has appeared at recent Trump rallies and has been giving away prizes of $1 million a day to registered voters in battleground states. So the article then goes on to say a few other things there. So what are my thoughts on this? First of all, I'm not surprised by this news. Because if you listened to even 10 minutes of their interview or their sit down, you could see that Joe Rogan had pretty much made up his mind that Trump was going to be his guy. It was clear, right? It was clear from the interview. So to me, I'm not shocked by this whatsoever. What I am surprised at is when he decided to do it. And I think it was a strategic decision on the part of Joe Rogan to make sure he does it the night before, basically the morning of election day. So it's pretty big news. I guess we have to see how much of a boost it gives to Donald Trump at, on voting day when people go to the booth to go decide who they're going to vote for. But nevertheless, it's pretty big news. So the question to the audience is simply this. Do you think Joe Rogan's endorsement of Donald Trump is going to sway voters enough to ensure that Donald Trump wins the election? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys on the next show.